Here we go. Let's see, it's 9:30. Let's see if my disabled waiting room has come up. It surely has not yet. I hope everybody can hear us and see us though, right? It's good to see everybody this morning. I know it's early, so we don't love to have our cameras on. Trust me, if we weren't presenting, we probably wouldn't either. Let me keep admitting. Oogie, I'm going to go ahead and make you the host. Make host. Do you want to change the host to Oogie? Why, yes, I do. So now, my friend, I believe you are the one who can let people in. And Oogie, I think if you go to security at the bottom of your screen, you might see where it says disable waiting room.
It does not.
So
I'll work on it.
But we've got people. Can you see if people are coming in?
I cannot.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to make myself a co-host if I can. How do I do this? Well, hi, guys.
As you do that, I want to welcome everybody as they come in. Welcome to McKay's virtual fall conference, Renewing, Recharging, and Rebuilding. Hope everyone's had a wonderful time this morning. Some great information that was given by our keynote this morning. Again, this is in a virtual format. We still want to work together. I'm really excited about this presentation by the Romulus staff. Just a few housekeeping reminders. Always visit the McKay website for information, updates. Check out our monthly membership check-ins as well. And don't forget to join us this evening for trivia. If you don't have a team, don't worry. If you want to join, we can get you on and make sure that you can participate in that. Again, this session is recorded. The presentation materials will be available for you by the end of the day. And don't forget to also, if you need sketches, there'll be an email link for your sketches validation form throughout this conference. Those will be due on November the 8th. And so we'd like a full, complete evaluation form sent in. We encourage you to be on cam if you can. Again, Renee says I know once again we'll let you in. I'll try and manage the chat box as much as I can. But without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the Romulus staff of Renee, Dominic, and Rob that will be presenting today. So go ahead and take it away, Renee.
Hi, guys, so much. Oogie, I'm going to make you, I took the hosting position back from you for a second to try to figure out how to unlock the waiting room, and I still haven't done it, but hopefully everybody has been able to join us. Oogie, I can tell you that Patrick now said, if we click on participants, I believe that will help us. So I have made you the host again. I think if you click on participants, he said with the arrow, that shouldn't allow us to disable the waiting room. So hopefully, all right,
I got it. I just submitted a bunch, so we're good.
Hi, guys. It's so nice to see you. So if I haven't introduced myself before, my name is Renee Gowan. I have been with Romulus Community School since 2009. I was first hired as a GED prep teacher. I knew nothing about adult ed, nothing about any of this. I had no idea what the GED even was. So started in 2009. I was made coordinator in about 2011. And then I kind of waited around until my boss, Todd Marlott, said that he was going to retire. In 2020, he announced his retirement, and I was so excited. Oh my gosh, I'm finally going to get to be the director of adult ed. And when the job was posted, it was not the director of adult ed. It was the director of adult and alternative ed. And I had a major moment of panic because I've never done alternative ed before. They started talking to me about 5ODs and EDPs. And I was like, what the heck are you guys talking about? I know ABE and ESL and GED, but what is this language you're speaking of? So needless to say, August 2nd, 2020 was very exciting, but a very scary time in my life. I was put in charge of an alternative program that had been very well established by our now director of technology. Dom, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that Romulus Virtual Learning Center first started in about 2017, and it was originally named the Romulus Airport Virtual Academy. Dom,
Yes, yeah.
I'm right.
It became separate 2017, 2018.
And Dom was the first teacher hired for that. It was run, like I said, by our director of technology. So these two guys just decided we're not doing anything paper. They were really the first in the district to really embrace the entire Google platform. I didn't even know what a Google Suite was. I was like, what's Google Doc? I'm a Microsoft Word girl. And these guys just laughed at me. So needless to say, coming into this world with them, fully virtual, everything online, nothing paper and pencil, was super intimidating to me, because I think some of you remember, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, I did a PD for McKay and we handed out binders that had hundreds of pages in the binders of GED prep materials. That was me. I was the paper waster. And then I meet these guys and they're like, nah, we don't do anything paper. Everything's online. We're totally virtual. So thank God for these two men that I'm about to introduce and pass over to you. Without Dominic Catanzarite and Rob Barrett, I don't know that I could have done this job. And of course, the committee that I have with McKay, you know, I'm looking out here and I know I've seen Stephanie and Kevin has been such a huge help to me. Oh my God, Kendall as well. So many of you have stepped up and helped me when I knew very little about this. But without these two guys that I'm about to present to you here, I just don't know if I couldn't have done it. So we had a couple questions that I wanted to answer right off the jump. Question was, is our enrollment staying up? And I have to say, yes, our enrollment since COVID has been pretty even, if not a little bit more, because here's why, guys. These guys knew how to do virtual. So we didn't know how to deal with the pandemic, but we knew how to do virtual. So when March of 2020 happened, it was very seamless for us to have all of our students continue virtually, because that's what we do. So what I've asked these guys is to just really share with you the documents that make our program run the way it does. So lots of documents that Dom and Rob have spent hours creating. Thankfully, they're very generous and are willing to share those with you. But we really just want to talk to you about how we make this alternative program fully virtual run really well. It's a pride point for our district. I think when Romulus decided this year, you know, we want to make everybody K through 12, give them the option K through 12 of being virtual. They looked to us a lot to help with that, because Dom and Rob are just so good at it. So if you have any questions, we'll keep an eye on the chat. Feel free to reach out or unmute yourself, but I'm going to turn it over to Rob and Dom, and they're going to tell you how we completely enroll students and get them started absolutely virtually. So big thank you to Rob and Dom. I mean, you guys know how much you mean to me. I hope I tell you all the time. If not, I'll tell you again right now. Couldn't do my job without you, and I think you're the best staff members ever. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I'm going to mute myself and pass it over to you.
Well, thank you, Renee. Can everybody hear us? Okay, I'm Dominic. This is Rob. And I'm going to share my screen. So just as Renee said, and even what our presenter in the first session said, you know, the pandemic kind of forced everybody to rethink how we just conducted the business of education. One of the things that we were hit with at RVLC when everything kind of shut down was the fact that at that time we were still using folders with numerous documents in them, you know, either handwritten or filled out on the computer and then printed out and then put into, you know, a manila folder. And we realized quickly that working out of our office, you know, became a pretty daunting task, especially when it came to communicating with students. When I'm sure many of you get the common questions of how many classes do I have left? How many credits do I have? What are my next classes next semester? Things like that. So we, you know, nothing that we do is revolutionary. We just took the tools that were already there with the Google Suite, and we're using them now to take everything that used to be in a tangible folder in a file cabinet in our office. Now it's a folder with the student's name on it in a Google Drive. Okay. Renee wanted us to highlight our learning lab. These are a few pictures of our learning lab. Hopefully we're going to get back to our normal model, which is students scheduled days to come in, either get individual help, or they might even just schedule days to come in just for a quiet place to work. If you notice that we don't have traditional seating, we have comfortable couches, we have large screen TVs. Mostly they're just playing things like the news station, stuff like that. Maybe on occasion on a Friday, we'll show a movie that is school appropriate. Do everything we can to make our learning lab as comfortable of an environment as possible, because we do understand that many of our students, they might not go home to what we have at home. They might not have a comfortable place to sit at home. They might not have a quiet environment. So we try to provide that as much as possible, while at the same time removing the structure of the traditional classroom, which, let's face it, didn't work for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be with us.
And can I just add, those are whiteboard desks. So we love that.
Yes.
The students can actually write on those desks, and then they can lift the desks up to display them like a whiteboard. So that is a super cool feature about those desks. Sorry, Dom, I got to interject every once in a while. And our district is actually looking to model the classroom furniture in the rest of K through 12 after this wing. Now, I can't take credit for this. This is these guys again, but those desks are really, really cool desks that you can actually write on. So if you're interested in it, let us know. We'll send you a link to those desks.
Yeah, a couple other things we can highlight about our learning lab is, we have the flat panel TVs up by our door, which is normally, it's a marquee that's going to have any kind of important announcements. Another flat panel TV over here. This is the common area. We do have a school check-in system that the students can scan their student IDs when they come in. All students must have a scheduled appointment. We don't do any drop-ins students for numerous reasons. Most recently, the reason is, we got to keep a track of who's coming in and who's leaving. So our enrollment process, everything begins with an application that is on our website for the Romulus Community Schools. Now, there is a link to our application. It is a Google form. So every student follows the same process. This is the actual form that gets filled out. It gets auto-generated when the student fills in their information. We're looking for key things like, were you suspended? Were you ever expelled? Do you have an IEP? Stuff like that. These get auto-generated. An email gets dumped into the RVLC at Romulus Community Schools general email that we have. And all of us, myself, Rob, and Renee, as soon as an application is submitted, we get an email notification about it. Again, this is not revolutionary. We're just using the Google tools that we have to eliminate the need for students coming in asking for a paper application that they have to fill out.
And again, me always adding, if you notice on that first page, we have a signature spot for the superintendent and the director of special services to sign. That's because if a student is expelled and it's something that would require the superintendent to sign off on, we would certainly take the application to our superintendent and have him sign off. Likewise, when we have a student apply with an IEP, we take that directly to our special services director and she signs off on it. So that's why we have those different signature lines there, because there's certain things that would flag us that we need to involve those two people. That is really helpful to us, you guys.
And going forward, we're trying to eliminate any printing of this application altogether. So the next step for us is to look at purchasing DocuSign and then giving it to all the pertinent people to be able to look at, review it, and sign electronically so that they don't even have to come in and we can discuss it not being together.
So
This application is a godsend to us, you guys. As a first mode out, I have to say that I'm bragging about you guys throughout this whole thing. These guys have set this up to where it really asks so many of the key questions that we would need to know to properly enroll a student. So they did a great job with this, as they did with everything.
now, another way students enter our school is through an enrollment through, and is through a referral from either the middle school or Romulus High School. And these referrals come straight from their guidance counselor at their school. This is again, electronic form filled out through Google Forms, asking important information, you know, when the students started falling behind, what kind of interventions were already set in place, why, you know, main reasons as to why the student is seeking a full-time virtual environment. Things that help us, you know, identify what the needs of that student are going to be as soon as we begin the enrollment process. We also have
So the second page that we have on here is, if you are going to come to us from Romulus High School or from Romulus Middle School, there needs to be a plan to get you back in the traditional classroom. We are kind of facing identity crisis of sometimes we are looked at as a dumping ground for the district. So we made it very clear that this is just another form of education that is for the students that the students that are able to work virtually, this works well for. There are some students that they're not successful. So our plan is always to have a backup plan of how you're going to get back into the high school so that they don't come here and not graduate, not fall behind in credits. And then the virtual program is then their only option. We want to make sure that they have a second option of going back over there and being successful at the normal traditional high school. So we would fill this out, have a plan with the counselors and administration from both schools to be able to send kids back to Romulus High School.
any kind of questions on that?
The referral forms, again, I'm going to interject throughout the whole thing. I said I was going to mute. That's a lie. You guys who know me know me. The referral forms have been really, really important to us this year. It helped when they're referring students to us, it forces them to stop and think about, okay, what is the reasoning I'm referring? And something that Rob recently added to the referral form is, what steps have you taken to help the student stay at the high school? So again, as Rob said, you know, sometimes it's very quick. Like, all right, they got in a fight, let's send them to alternative ed. And it's like, now, wait a minute, there's tiers of support we're supposed to go through. So I really appreciate that Rob has put that on this referral form, Rob and Dom both. So when someone from the high school is referring them to us, it's asking them these questions. Hey, when did they start falling behind? What interventions have you guys used? And then taking a step further, what's our plan to get them back? Because you know, there's a lot of alternative programs here. I don't know how many of you have stories like this. We had a young man who was referred to us in 6th grade for throwing a chair at a teacher, and he's still with us in 10th grade. So, you know, we talk about this all the time. We need to get this young man back face to face. So my 2 teachers, and we are running a small staff here. I know a lot of you, Stephanie, Kendall, you guys have much bigger staffs. In a way, this small, tight group works really well because we know our students and we're strongly advocating for them. But I think these referral forms for us at the high school have made a world of difference because it forces people to stop, slow down, Why are you referring this student to us? What have you done? And a lot of times the answer is, I haven't done enough. So now we're getting from the high school, like, listen, we're going to make counseling available to them through our counselors and our social workers. So for me, this referral form, instituting that this year has made a world of difference. And I think Rob and Dom will tell you the same thing.
Okay, next things I want to talk about are kind of the guts of what, our presentation is going to be about. Whenever we get a student into our school, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to do an audit of their transcripts. We want to see where they are, what classes they have credit for, what classes we need to assign as a credit recovery version, what classes we need to assign as a initial credit. I'm actually going to come out of here and I'm gonna come back to that transcript audit. I'm just gonna briefly touch on some other documents that are always important. Technology loan agreement. These are also things that get filled out virtually or electronically, if we want to use that term, through a Google form. We have our parent-student agreement. According to the 50D section of the pupil accounting manual, every student who's in a virtual school, both the parent or the guardian and the student have to sign a document that says this is where they want to be. In our parent-student agreement, it includes important dates. The most important dates we always focus on things are when the count days are.
We stress the two-way communication.
Stress that two-way communication.
So we really try to focus on the main points that we need students and parents both to understand. I mean, we're trying to not just flood them with information. So when I first came in, there was pamphlets and booklets handed out to students and parents, and we were really trying to focus on what main points we need to get across to each student and parent, and have them sign just one document and as short and concise as possible.
Goes over our testing policy, the mentor contact. Again, re-emphasizes that the technology that we provide for them is not theirs, and Big Brother is always watching. Again, this is another document that's filled out through Google form and gets put into a student folder.
Dom, can I interject and tell me if you're going to get to this already?
Yeah.
But the reason these guys are so key on having a parent sign and stop me if you're getting to this, Dom, is because it's required.
Yeah.
This 50, are you guys talking about that?
Yeah, I just mentioned, I mentioned that this is required. And it's not just the parent. The student also has to, according to the pupil accounting manual, the student has to acknowledge that they're going to be in a 100% virtual school,
And virtual classes work best for them.
Yes. So this isn't just something that looks cute and pretty for us. This is required by the state.
And if you guys aren't familiar with the pupil accounting manual or the 50D, don't worry, I wasn't either. But if you are in the alternative world, particularly the virtual alternative world, the 50D is kind of our Bible. Forgive me for being sacrilegious. It's the most important document to lead how we should do things. And it does say that a student is to sign off with their parent on virtual services. So it's law. It's not something optional we do. It's something we have to do. And these guys are super worried about an audit all the time. Can I just say that? Every day, it's like, Renee, we have to keep all of our ducks in a row in case we get audited. So how lucky am I to have 2 employees that constantly bring this up? Aren't they awesome, you guys?
What am I always saying, Renee? Buy the book. It's got to be by the book. Everything has to be by the book.
And this is from someone who speeds like everywhere. Like I am not really, when it comes to driving, especially, I'm not a rule follower. So these guys really keep me on my toes and make sure, like, if at any point we do this open door policy, like have Deb Caperton, our pupil accountant, walk in, like, look at what we're doing. We want to be transparent and make sure we're doing things the right way.
Next documents I'm going to share. Another thing that it is required by pupil accounting manual is educational plan development plan, or sometimes it's referred to as the EDP. This again, filled out with a Google form, everything gets auto-populated onto this first page here. And if it's something that goes into a student folder, if we want to print it out to have a hard copy for something, we can always print it out.
So each of these folders we're talking about are also shared with the student, because this has to be a living document and students will be able to make changes accordingly, so that this is never a finite sheet that we just put in some type of folder and never touch again.
And according to the pupil counting manual, it's got to include things, what their career interests are, what their post-secondary school interests are. Do they want to go to a trade school? Do they want to join the military? What type of job do they wish to have? What kind of a lifestyle do they wish to have? You can ask, some important questions about how they feel about their future. This is also a document that can always be updated at any time. By the student. They don't even have to ask us. They can update it on their own. Another huge part of the EDP is, I'm going to go back to our graduation audit is what we refer to it as. Now, this is in two parts, mainly because when we fill out a student's name, if you want to type a student's name, everything gets done in real time. This is again shared with the students.
As you can see, that all this has coding in it so that it makes our life easier. So if we have a student's birthday, it will automatically update their age and it'll keep a running total there for us. Also, their grade, we will have a code in here that depending on the amount of credits they earn, this grade will automatically update. So we are not concerned about what MyStar shows, because our MyStar shows that as students progress each year based on age, their grade level goes up. But that's not necessarily what really occurs. So as we get more credits, so for example, I know you're gonna go over this, but like if they have Algebra 1, it'll update automatically here on the screen. And then the credits as a whole will update their grade level. And you can set those settings based on whatever your school uses for your definitions of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders.
Yeah, and the course names, these are basically for our district. Other school districts might not call it Algebra 1. They might not call it geometry. It might be Math 1. We've seen transcripts that have had so many different names for classes. Something like this would have to be individualized for whatever your school district is. But as we fill in these sections, they turn green. These are ways that we can identify where students, what classes they need to make up.
They're always worried about credits and what classes they need. That's the number one question.
Mm-hmm.
So we share this document with them, but after we do a transcript breakdown, as it's shown right now, we make a list of what remaining classes you need to graduate. And this is something, not only do we share with them, but even after we share with the student, we'll still get the same question. So just taking a simple screenshot and sending to a text to a student saying, hey, here's where you're currently at, and here's what classes you are needed to graduate.
Of course, the students can only see a protected version. They can't see an editable, a version that they can edit. But it's all, any updates that we do automatically update on what the student sees.
I'm going to interject again.
Right.
We mentioned MyStar. MyStar is our district's database. So your district might use Power School, or if you're old school, StuRec. MyStar is what we use in our district to enroll the students, to generate their transcripts. I'm going to stop again for one more second, because this document right here has changed our lives. We quickly incorporated this into adult ed as well. So I should tell you, Dom and Rob had their feet firmly planted in alternative ed. I think it took me all of 3 months to where I converted them to now they're full-time in RVLC alternative ed, but they're part-time in adult ed as well. Because the things that they're using here, this, for example, this transcript breakdown, I can't tell you how helpful this has been to us in adult ed. We wrote everything out by paper, and I'm not gonna lie to you, because we're all friends here, there were mistakes made. There were mistakes made that maybe credits weren't counted properly, or somebody counted a class for the wrong credit. And Rob and Dom really came in and it helped to clean up our entire adult ed program as well now too, so that we have all of our adult students also have their credits broke down this way. I have to really, they're color coding, the auto generating, like this form right here. And no, you guys cannot steal them from me. They are very loyal to Romulus and they're not leaving, but like this form has made such a difference in our adult ed program as well. If you're still writing out your breakdowns by hand, stop. Start using these methods. You can use our form. Well, I mean, if you're, I think you have access to it in the folder, but this has really been a huge game changer for us. I'm really excited that they're sharing this with you guys.
Yes, just for anybody that's in the session, we've shared a link. If you want to click the link, you will request access to these documents. I'll give you a view only. Just make a copy for yourself and make the edits to where it meets the standards of your program. So change the name and change any of the formulas. It's very simple since it's already built in. You might have to make a few changes to it.
And I'll go ahead, Rob and Dom, with your permission and share your email in the chat box, all three of us. And if anybody has any questions, is it okay if they email us directly?
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. I'll do that right now.
And on the other side of the second sheet that I'm showing, the academic plan is again required by the state of Michigan. As classes are selected over here for remaining classes, they automatically get populated over here. And then from this list of classes, we can then build what their academic plan is going to be.
Social plan versus actual, what happens when they
So,
pass a class.
You know, let's see, this student's going to have, let's see, English 10B. Let's go biology A. Let's say health and a foreign language. Then their second semester would be also plotted out with plan and actual. And as we all know, what we plan to have them finish in one semester isn't always what they actually finish in a semester. So we do have the option to go back and 12A,
And then show 10B.
and if they didn't finish 10B, we can make a note there that that was their actual second semester course for that school year. And all of this is done to alleviate the headache that we had when everything shut down in March of 20, where we had all these files that we relied on heavily every day, and we didn't have them in front of us anymore. So we just took that tangible file, made it to what, you know, took everything that was there, made it an editable document, electronic, and then we created files with students' names on them.
And it really, the shutdown really made us examine what is actually required versus what was kind of needless in a student's folder. So we do hit all of the state laws, but we also made it to where it applies to our specific program. We can technically do our job from anywhere now because of this. So this is, everything is saved to our Google shared folder from our RVLC staff. So even if I were to get sick or leave for some reason and somebody else would take over, everybody would have the same access and edited versions of all the students, and there would be no loss of any information or handing off from one student to one person to the other.
Then again, if any student transfers to a new school, we print all this stuff up, slide it inside their CA60, and send it off. Any questions?
I think most of you have access to that already. So Rob, forgive me, I went through and made it to where anyone with the link who can have access, if you want to go through and fix that. Just remember, as you're going through that, again, we ask that you would just change it to fit your needs. So you don't want to use our logo, even though our logo is pretty awesome. And can I say, these guys have also come up with a logo. So there's just not a whole lot that these guys can't do. Did you guys have any questions for us at all? Hopefully this was helpful. So I know some of you were present yesterday in the alternative ed committee, and there was discussion about the correct way to count virtual students. Tina, am I right? Was that a conversation that was had yesterday? So I think that the general consensus was perhaps it might depend on your individual auditor, right? So again, talking to Dom and Rob about this yesterday, should we worry about this? So we did email our auditor yesterday just to get an email from her, and she said, so I'm telling Dom and Rob this for the first time because I just got this email while we were presenting, that absolutely the way that we're doing it, which is if a student, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, so count day was October 6th. If one of our virtual students logged in and completed an assignment in all of their classes on October 6th, they completed an assignment in each one of their classes, then we can count them. Now, let's say one of our virtual students didn't complete an assignment in all of their virtual classes. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think only about 25 to 30% of our students did that. If they did not complete an assignment in each one of their classes, then we are asked to document weekly contact with them for the 4 weeks of count. And that would end next week on Tuesday. So Tina, I know that there was a conversation yesterday, like, because that I don't know that that's what every program does. So what we did, and again, I'm not sure if this is the way that everybody would do things, but for me, and for Moira and Rob and Dom, we want to get things in writing. So if we ever were audited and somebody said, hey, why did you do it this way? I can now pull out an email from Deb Capperton, our pupil accountant at our local ISD, that says, this is how she told us to do this. So that's the direction we're following. So for me, I don't know if it's CYA guys or just, I like to have, here's my documents, here's my 504, and don't tell these guys, I still print everything out. Like, it just makes me feel better to have paper copies. I know they like their digital everything online, but that works well for me as a new alternative ed director. I ask a lot of questions. So I know that there's a lot of mentality like ask for forgiveness later. That kind of panics me. I'd rather know now that I'm doing something wrong so that we can correct it. So I think I'm looking out here like Heather, and there's so many of you, Kendall, who are so seasoned with this, that, you know, but for me coming into this, it really helps if I don't know the answer, I ask that question. And I have to brag that I feel like I'm the luckiest girl in the world, because at my own program, I have 2 genius, helpful men that you're looking at right now. Most of you already know my Moira, who is about the smartest woman. But outside of that, I also have amazing people through McKay that have helped me. So there is an alternative ed committee. Tina has sat on that. I know that Kevin's been in there with us. That's been really helpful. In addition to that, reaching out to the MDE, Jeff McNeil, has been really helpful to us. Anytime we have a question, our local ISD, we belong to a group. I know Kendall and Kevin and myself, maybe some others from Wayne County, belong to an alternative schools leadership network. So there's just been, for me, a lot of support and comfort in reaching out to people. So again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but this is a job that I think is difficult for us to do on our own. And I think it really helps to have people out there that you can reach out to. You know, I got to give a huge shout out to Stephanie and Oogie, because I would say my first year, between the 2 of them, I probably met with them once a week. Just, Renee, you're doing things right. You're okay here. So really, I would just strongly recommend using the community of people that you have here in McKay with any questions that you might have. And again, I'm sorry for speaking for you, Dom and Rob, but we will be willing to help with whatever we can. You know, these two guys will help me put up a shelf in my house if I ask for it. So they're just the most helpful people. We would love to, anything that we can do. We're still a relatively new program. We haven't even been around 10 years, and I'm so excited for when we do have our 10-year anniversary. But if there's anything that we can do to help, we would absolutely love to do that. And I promise Tina and Tammy and Stephanie and Oogie and Kevin and Christian and all my other friends out there, I'm gonna be reaching out to you too. I'm never gonna stop asking you questions, because that's the beauty of this organization that we belong to here. And you guys know I'm a McKay board member, so that's important to me. But really, this group that we have here, they're the reason that I have this job. They're the reason that I can continue to do this job. They're the reason that I'm passionate about this job. So I'm just so excited to see you guys all here. God, Rob and Dom, thank you so much publicly. I hope I thank you enough privately. You're amazing. What you do is amazing. How you guys care about these students. So I have to tell you, I can at any point ask either one of them, mention any one of our students' names, and they will tell me how many credits they need to graduate, which classes they are in, how their attendance is, what's going on at home. Every single day, these two gentlemen come to me and say, Renee, I got this student on my mind. Renee, I just can't let this go. Like, they care so much. And that's something you can't teach. We just hired a new employee. He starts on Monday. And that was the biggest thing we're looking for. I don't care if you know MyStar or Edgenuity. I care that you care. Because I can't teach you that. If you don't care about our alternative students, then this isn't going to work. Our students have children, they have jobs, they have deaths, they have all kinds of barriers that we're dealing with. And I think that a lot of people in our district don't see the students and don't really realize what they're going through. Dom and Rob could tell you the names of their students' children. I bet you if pushed, they could tell you birthdays. So just the knowledge that they have, and it is, we run a real close ship here, guys. I feel like we all know everything about everybody, but it works for us. And if there's ever anything that we at Romulus can do to help you, it would be our honor to do so, because your programs out there have always been so helpful to us. And we just want to give it, pay it back, pay it forward, however you look at it.
Hey, Renee, I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question just for you guys on the team. How challenging was it to get this concept across to central office people? Did they let you go? Did you get that support? Or what type of challenges to change to a digital type of a format? I think some people might be scared, on the backside of it.
Dom, I'm going to let you speak to that, because really you were here, and there's chuckles going on right now, Oogie, because I think some of you, if you've watched the news, it's interesting to talk about our board right now because we're having trouble. So, and I'll get into that tomorrow at the roundtable discussion we're going to have about interacting with your board and the best way to do that. But Dom, could you talk a little bit about how our board responded when we first, because not only did we have to get permission to be virtual, Dom and Dave Cooper, who originated this program, had to get permission from the district to lower our required credits. So the rest of the students in our district require 22 credits to graduate. They negotiated with the board to where our alternative students only require 18. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it got rid of some of the elective requirements. So in my mind, I'm the optimistic one. Like, the board seems to really appreciate what our program is doing. But Dom, I'll let you speak to that a little bit more.
So in all honesty, Oogie, we didn't ask. We just did it and said, this is how we're doing it, except for issues that are, if there's something that's clearly a board policy, like we can't change the name of the classes, we can't change credit requirements. But the stuff that we showed you today, we didn't ask. We just did it and said, this is how we're doing it. If you don't like it, tough.
And I don't think the board knows enough about what we do.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they don't come in to ask us what we're doing, which we kind of like it that way.
They self, that's awesome.
And we, we're not doing anything. against ed code. We really stick to what the People County Manual says we need to do.
And we should mention, Dom, we had the board president's daughter in our program. So
Right.
she was absolutely privy to every single thing we were doing, because she had to sign all of those documents. So, it sucks to say, and I think we're trying to move past that, but alternative education is like, do what you do. You know what I mean? Our district, it's a heavy focus on K through 12. So you've got someone like me, the talker, who's always saying, but wait, alternative ed and adult ed, like we're super awesome. We're really doing things over here. And they're like, yep, you're doing good. You're graduating. You've got your staff, you got your students. Okay, keep doing what you're doing. Dom's right.
We
But-
run a skeleton crew, and we have to make it easy on ourselves.
So right now, and again, we shouldn't say this, but right now our teachers are 100 to 1. So it's not ever been like this. I think Dom, when he was the sole teacher here, may have had about 80 students on his
First year we
caseload.
started out at, we did 69 or 68 at count, and we grew to about 88, I think, by the end of the school year. And then every year we kept growing by about 10%.
So it's tough, you guys. It's tough to have that, there's no way any teacher or administrator out here would say that you can't have 100 to 1 ratio. You cannot. So these two guys are union. Ours is called the REA, correct, guys? So they are union, and right now we're working with the union president to get it to where our virtual teachers have it in their contract that they have a 50 to 1 ratio. We need this. We cannot be effective, and they are. And let me just say that they have 100, and they could sit here right now and list all 100 of their students apiece.
Oh, I got
But
it.
we need to have a smaller student to teacher ratio, and we're working very hard on doing that this year. So Tammy, I have to be honest and talk. I don't know what HQHC requirements are. Could you
Highly
let me know?
qualified.
Highly qualified, highly certified.
So
That's
we're both highly qualified in our subject areas. We're gonna, full transparency, we're short in other subject areas. We are going to have to contract with the high school to get teachers of record for the areas that we don't cover. Science and history, basically here.
And
So-
Tammy, here's how we're gonna do that. We're not just contracting with them, we're actually having them go through the Edgenuity classes and really clean those up to where they meet the standards that they use in their class. And then we are going to list them as teacher of record. So right now, Dom is science, Rob is social studies, and the new hire who starts on Monday is physical education. I'm English, so we're kind of using that. We have a health teacher in our adult ed. So we're really missing our math, foreign language, and art. So we're working really hard with our high school to try, like Dom said, to contract some of them. Edgenuity is our big platform, you guys, and I know it's not well loved. Our district, when we
perfect.
hear how they talk about Edgenuity, it's almost offensive to the three of us because we see so much inherent value in Edgenuity. If you are recovering a credit, do you know how many of our students have taken Algebra 1, 3, or 4 times and they keep failing it? Maybe not because they don't understand the content, but because they had too many absences or because they got sick. So we get so sick of seeing that. I don't want you to have to do this all over again. I think that Edgenuity works great for credit recovery. And you're not skipping through and just taking the final exam. You're still doing the entire course, but it works so great for our students. So while it might not work great for a 5th grade student or an 8th grade student, it works great for our alternative
it's not
students.
just ideal for credit recovery. Last year, we had a young lady who graduated. She was 19, had 2 children. Sitting in a classroom was not an option for this young lady. She was working full time, and she had to have an environment where she could do the work when she had the time. I mean, I'm 44, and I have a 2.5-year-old at home, and I know how hard that is. And you know, I've got my stuff together in life. 19 years old with 2 kids, you know, I don't even want to imagine how hard that is. So, you know, individuals can say what they want about Edgenuity. It's not ideal. As an educator, I still think being in a classroom with the teacher is the best place to be. But reality tells us that that doesn't always work.
And we don't usually want the 9th grader that's straight from the middle school that has never tried and failed in a traditional classroom. We truly view us as an alternative education where you've tried it, it's not working for you. Why don't you try something else like virtual and see if that works out for you? The other condition that makes it Ingenuity kind of a necessity at Romulus is there's a school policy at the Romulus High School that you can only take a class face-to-face twice. So after you take it, you fail it, you take it again, you fail it, you are not allowed to take that class again in person. So Algebra 1A, you got two times, you're done. So you must take it on Ingenuity or another platform.
And Kevin, I couldn't agree with what you said there more. You know, Kevin said soft skills of responsibility and follow through and self-direction and discipline is more important than academic skills. I couldn't agree with you more. And I hear these 2 guys talk about that all the time with students. So a big thing we get from students is sign my work permit. I can't tell you how often that request comes to us weekly. And the conversation we have to have with them is now, let's look, how much are you putting into your schoolwork? We're not just blindly signing those work permits. We're having conversations with them about how difficult it is. Think about us, you guys, full-time employees. And when we try to go back to get our masters or heaven forbid our PhD, like the juggling that you have to do with that, it takes planning, it takes dedication. So we have those conversations with the students. We follow up on that. We have a list of every work permit we've signed, and we follow up on that every other week. How much work have they done? Do I need to contact the employer and say, hey, Rob's not doing any schoolwork. You and I need to work out here. So, you know, we just try really hard to teach that, you know, I know you want to make money. You're 19 and you have children. I get that, but it's going to be a lot easier for you to make money once you get that diploma. So let us help you do that. I am constantly the one going, how many credits till you graduate? How many more? Do you think you're going to be able to do it by June 9th? Like, I'm the graduation hound all the time. And I have to say, these 2 guys are really great at that too. Rob has, we compliment Dom all the time on this. We try to give him the seniors who are close because for whatever reason, I don't know what he does, but he motivates them so much. And Rob comes in and he's really great with those students who have never done Edgenuity before. And they're like, wait a minute, virtual, I'm so scared. So these 2 guys like work in tandem so well together with their respective groups of students. And I have to just reiterate what Rob said earlier. You know, we're really trying to work with our district to say alternative ed should really be for 11th and 12th graders. We should not be talking about alternative ed for a 9th grader. We certainly should not be talking about alternative ed for a middle school student. So when RVLCs first started, it really was K through 12. And I would say in the last year, we've really tried to whittle that down to where we're not servicing many of our middle school students because it's too soon. There's more that can be done to help you so you can stay in a traditional face-to-face setting.
And it's showing, kind of a side topic, it's showing a lack of accountability on our staff and in other buildings of what we're doing, or the not having a policy of interventions for our students. So alternative ed has been predominantly the first line of intervention for a lot of these students, and we're trying to get rid of that.
And if you're sick of me bragging about my staff yet, give me just one more. I just have to say, when it comes to students with IEPs, that is a group that we try very hard with all of our students. But these 2 guys right now, when they know exactly who their students are who have IEPs, and they try so hard to make sure they're getting all of the accommodations that they possibly can. Like they really just are. Oogie would love to hear this, and he's mentioned it. They're wonderful advocates for their students, just the absolute best. So I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. I'm just, again, I was so overwhelmed at first by this program, and it still overwhelms me a little bit. I feel more comfortable in adult ed. You give me a GED test and I am right there. But these two guys, and again, I mean, I could look at all of you. I mean, Tina and Tammy and Oogie and Kevin, and oh my God, I could just go through all of you and the help that you have given me. I know, Tina, one of our first meetings, I'm like, wait, 50 what? You know, and you're like, Renee, it's the 50D. It's very important. So like, I can't thank you guys enough. And it really, I want to give back. So if there's anything that I can do, I don't have half of the knowledge of many people on this call right now, but we'd be happy to help. And we're just so grateful that you came to this session. I'm so grateful that you got to meet these two men that I'm just so proud to work with. I couldn't ask for a better staff. I really couldn't, but I mean it out there. If any of you try to take them, I'm going to come after you because I'm a poacher. I like to poach, you know, but you can't
Oh, the right
have them.
price.
You can't have them, guys. I'm sorry. They're mine. Are there any other questions before we go take a 15-minute break?
I have a question. Could you speak on your drop process?
Our drop process. So,
It's a good question.
we
Tina, when
hate
it comes
dropping.
to students with IEPs, we can't without any we have to have full permission from the special ed director.
We hate dropping students.
We do.
It is never it is never a decision we take lightly. But if a student is not fulfilling the minimum requirements, they will get multiple written notices, they will get emails, they will get notices mailed home. If it is a student who is a minor, mom, dad, or the guardian is always in the mix. The drop process for us might take 6 weeks, because we're going to give that student every opportunity to change or to improve. But unfortunately, sometimes we do have to do it.
And we
Yeah,
escalate.
Tina, like Dom said, we have a list. Count ends on Tuesday of next week. We have a list of 2 students right now, and we hope it's not more, but it's like a constant discussion. Did you get in touch with them yet? Have they done any work yet? It's a big deal.
I probably should have included, we do have that. It is an automated process. Basically, it's in Google form. All of our students are already pre-populated into a list where every week we go to check, see who's not meeting the time requirements and who's not meeting the progress requirements. And twice a week, we'll send out a non-compliant notice. So
it's automatic,
never,
Tina.
Yeah, there's never a time where a student says, well, I didn't know I wasn't doing my stuff. Well, no, you're getting the emails. It goes either to, it'll go to their student email if they're a minor, and then it'll also go to their primary contact email.
And we
would love to share that with you guys, right? We can share a blank copy of that because it is, like Dom said, it's auto-generated where these non-compliance letters are going out. So Dom, if we could at some point, could you guys add that to the folder? Because we have some requests for that. It's very helpful.
That is all on top of our normal daily routine. Renee, you mentioned earlier about how I like the seniors. I want to get them graduated. And my technique, honestly, is I hound them like a loan shark. That's basically what I do. It's constant phone calls, text messages, emails, whatever it is, whatever it takes to get in contact with that student and get through to them.
He's been known to get blocked because he blows up.
Well, Renee,
1
Dominic,
minute.
and Rob, we have 1 minute left. I just want to thank you and all of the folks that joined us today for this presentation, and really appreciate the way that you advocate again for your students, that you look out for them, that you're innovative and your approaches that you have. Yes, love it.
Rob worked very hard on that one slide, and I could not share it.
Thank
So we
you
appre-
so much for having us, you guys. We are thrilled to help. We will make sure that we add that non-compliance form to the folder, and please reach out to us if there's anything you need. Enjoy your break. We'll see you back at 11, right?
Yep, if you have a chance, visit the exhibitors vendor bingo also. Next session will begin at 11.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, you guys. We're
Bye.
here if you ever need us, because we're gonna be reaching out to you too. I'm gonna stop the recording, Oogie.